Thank you. First of all, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. But I think that above all, I can say good morning, dear friends, because after 10 years of working together, that's how I see most of you. I will, of course, like to thank this opportunity to make this presentation of the work that we have been developing in the last years in the scope of the national regional technology platforms. And I could not wish for a better previous speech than the one from Mr. Poppens, because I think that you will understand why I'm saying this. If we look at innovation, this industry-led innovation framework, if we look at the story of the ManuFuture platform, we move from this vision, strategy, to innovation challenges and to research needs. And this led to our strategic research agendas and to our road mapping exercises, and of course to the research programs and projects that we launch at European level. But equally important is, of course, the task of bringing these results to the market, as it was mentioned. So taking these technologies, develop new products and services and bring them to the market, and with that to contribute to a more competitive European industry. And some of these cycles we have been covering along these years. Not only the biggest cycle, which is going from the challenges to the research activities, which are what we were basically been doing the last years, but also to remember that we can do a lot with existing technologies, that can be further exploited, which is a smaller cycle. Now, if we also remember that we are working with what we call enabling, cross-sectorial enabling technologies, so which means that it's a technology that can be applied in many different sectors, and probably not by the same company, not by the same technology provider. So which means that we can, from one single technology, have several companies exploiting this technology in many different sectors. So we end up not with a normal value chain, a linear value chain, but what we can call a pyramid value chain. And if you want to take full advantage of these capabilities, of these characteristics, we need also to promote further exploitation. Now, finally, last but not least, the funding for these activities. We know until now that in FP7, basically we were able to fund the first part of that cycle, the applied research, the experimental development, the demonstration, etc. It was possible already inside FP7, enabling the PPP factors of the future, to go a bit further into the demo target projects. But we also know that for other activities, other steps of the innovation process, more related to technology integration, product development, etc., this needs to be funded at national regional level, because it's not possible to fund at European level. In Horizon 2020, there were introduced some new tools, some new funding sources that may cover some of these activities, but it will be in a very limited way, because of course the resources needed to do this at European level are much bigger than the amount of money that we will have at European level. So for the future, like in the past, a lot of these activities needed to continue to be funded at national, regional level. And of course, this is a big challenge, and it's very much connected to the previous speech also. So, and we learned by experience that we have some barriers, some problems that limited our capability to further exploit the results of our research projects. So this can be the project consortium that lacks exploitation capabilities or competences. So there are no partners there, for example, to explore the results. Or because we don't disseminate and demonstrate enough the technology, so the technologies are there, but they are not known to the market. Or simply because there is no funding for those activities. As I mentioned, taking research results to the market, they call for a lot of money. In some cases, 10 times more money than the research itself. And if we don't have this, if we are not able to gather this resource, then of course there will be barriers for further exploitation. And of course this is some of the reasons why we have this gap, this difficulty at European level to take the results of the excellent research we do to the market. Now, this was clear, the involvement of the national and regional level was clear, the importance of this involvement for the ManuFuture platform right from the beginning. Not only in the road mapping phase, where we, of course, wanted to involve, we wanted for these roadmaps to be very much participated by a large number of stakeholders. And of course, this will only be possible with the involvement of the national regional level, but also more recently in the exploitation part, in the exploitation phase. The involvement of this national regional level is critical because we need to mobilize actors, we need to bring them together, we need to know, to exchange information, to exchange technologies. And so this involvement of the national regional level is critical. And what started to be a group of 16 national regional platforms, I'm proud to announce that today has 28 national regional platforms, and very fast it will become to 30 in the next 2 months, I hope. We already have the requests from these 2 other platforms to join. So it's a very large group of entities, more than 2,000 entities directly involved in these platforms, both from industry, academia, research organization, public authorities in the different countries. It constitutes what we call an implementation army for these efforts. Just to illustrate what we have been doing already in the past, as it was mentioned before, in this direction of further exploitation, I bring you an example of, this is a research project, a European research project, an integrated project called Euroshoe, where several technologies were developed. One of them was the logistic system for customized products, so this was already done several years ago. This was developed, as I said, at European level. And then this was a concept that was developed, not even a prototype there. And the prototype, the real prototype, was built, installed, tested, and demonstrated in the shoe sector using the IPP lab in Vigevano, which is an infrastructure funded with Italian funds, so national funds. And so we make a first alignment of national and regional funds with European funds, with European programs, by using an infrastructure, a demonstration infrastructure at national level to install, test, and demonstrate results of a European project. But in a second stage, we took the result of this project and we used national and regional funding programs, in this case in Portugal, to take these results and develop and install and test and demonstrate the same results, the same technologies in other sectors, in this case in metalworking sector. So this is again a second example of using complementary funding programs at national regional level to support this cycle. Another example, not of a project, but creating initiatives, is the PRODUTECH, which is a production technology cluster that was created at national level in Portugal, that gathers under the philosophy and the strategy of ManuFuture. Actually, it was promoted by the national ManuFuture platform that gathers today more than 90 members, most of them manufacturing production technology producers, so companies, but also research organizations and representatives from 8 of the main industrial sectors in Portugal. And so together we are developing new technologies and also promoting this further exploitation of technology developed at European level. And one example of this is the work we have been doing, this cluster and other clusters in Portugal, with the national authorities to define the topics under which they open calls at national level for further exploitation. So, for example, we have innovation supporting programs in Portugal that support further exploitation of research results, that the topics of these calls are agreed with us, and we align them not with the most recent research results at the European level, but with the research project, sorry, but with the research results that are coming out of the European project, so that we can use these national programs to further exploit them and bring them to the market. And our national, so this funding instrument gives a premium of 10% more funding if you are exploiting results of European projects. So which means that we were able to work with the national authorities to facilitate this further exploitation at national level, of the results of the research projects. And of course, in our case, these programs are funded with structural funds, which again, it's again a good example of how to use these funds to promote more research and innovation activities at national level. Now, this was basically the past. Let's talk a little bit about the future. So I told you, for those of you that are in the platform since the beginning, we had our first stage, our first phase, that was the road mapping exercise, to make sure that FP7 calls were aligned with the interests of industry, and more recently, the calls from PPP factors of the future. Then we enter into a second stage that was the mobilizing the stakeholders and the funding. And of course, because if we do the roadmap and then there are no industry, no companies involved in the calls, that would be a big problem. So we enter into this implementation phase where we were able to mobilize a lot of companies, a lot of actors, and the funding that was needed for this specific program on production technologies via the PPP factors of the future. Now, I think that the next stage, and of course all these activities will continue for the future, but I think that one of our next challenges is the exploitation phase. So which means taking the results of these projects and bring them to the market and cause impact in our industry, generate jobs and generate growth. And of course, for this part, a lot of what I've been saying before, it's important. Now, in this area, we have already some activities ongoing. One of them is a European project that is starting now called Explore, that the objective is to take existing results of European projects and further exploit them into the market. How? Basically gathering these results. So we will not look at the projects, we will look at the results of the project that can be further exploited. On one side, on the offer side, and on the demand side, we will look at the European industrial sectors, which are their main challenges and needs, so that we can see how can these existing technologies already help to resolve, to develop new products and new services, to support, to help these needs, to match these needs. But we will also look at the regions, so the regions more interested in manufacturing in general and in production technologies in particular, that have or will have in the future, already have, or will have in the future, funding for further research and innovation activities. And so we will match this triangle again, so existing technologies, companies and sectors needing of new products and services, and funding schemes at national, regional level to further exploit these results and to build in practice that pyramid that I mentioned before. So we will be looking at technologies that have never been yet exploited, so that have not been yet to the market, and we will find we'll help support, so we'll support finding new companies that are willing to exploit them and funding, but we will also look at technologies that are already being exploited in one particular sector and look for further possibilities of exploiting these technologies in other sectors. So contributing to extract the full potential of these cross-sectorial characteristics of the production technologies we are developing. But as it was mentioned before, there is a task that we all need to be involved in, which is to work with the national and regional level, to work with our national regional authorities to ensure that manufacturing industry in general and production technologies in particular are strategic areas considered for the future. And as it was mentioned before, the smart specialization strategy calls for the regions to define their strategic areas, their priorities. And of course, in this case, we need to work with our national regional authorities, make sure that they are aware of the importance of manufacturing activities and that they include them as one of the priorities. Now, I just bring, we are working in this field via our national and regional networks and national regional platforms. And there is a website, a database that's called IRISC3, where you can find information about the regions that have already indicated their priorities and in which areas they have indicated them. So I took a picture. It's not, of course, there are other regions that have already indicated the priorities but are not there yet. But I took some, let's say, a snapshot of the most recent information that is there. And you can see marked in red the regions that have already indicated their priorities and that have already registered in the database. So you can see in red that some of them are the ones that are there. And I compare with the regions that have already indicated R&D in manufacturing activities as one of the priorities. So you can see it's not 100% as expected, but still it's an interesting number of regions from the ones that are already there that have indicated this area as a priority. And then I took a second picture, which is to look the number of regions that have already indicated advanced manufacturing systems as one of the priorities. So not only manufacturing, but advanced manufacturing systems. And it's, again, it's a smaller group from that one, but as you can see, there are already also some regions that have already indicated. For example, I can tell you, in Portugal, it's still white, but two of the regions have already indicated, they have already advanced manufacturing systems as one of their priorities. And I know by experience, because I've been involved in the process, Galicia has also indicated in their priorities. So, which means that there is still a lot of work to be done at national and regional level, and this must be done mainly at national and regional level. So this is not something we can do only at European level. And of course, national and regional platforms can and should have a very important role in this process. So just to conclude, some recommendations for the future. It's very important to achieve these results that we disseminate this available knowledge, namely using case studies, pilot lines, etc., etc. We should push for this further exploitation and reutilization of R&D results, namely by cross-fertilizing technologies among sectors, which is a very, very smart way of getting new products and services with smaller timings, smaller costs, and smaller risks. We should use the potential of demonstrators and pilot lines. Of course, we should create new ones, but we should also look at the ones that already exist and we can use for this dissemination effort. Again, also clusters can play a major role in all these processes, and I'm sure that also our colleagues from DG Enterprise that have been working a lot with clusters, they also are very much committed in this effort. Of course, I think that we now understand all the importance of align and combine the different and complementing funding schemes, both at national and regional level, but also at European level. And we should try to close this gap between research programs and exploitation. A lot of steps have been done in this direction already. But I would like to end by stressing, in the same line as the previous speaker, Mr. Poppins, that it's very careful and we should be realistic in this case. We should not try to fund the entire cycle in one project. This is very, very difficult. And I think that what we should try to do is, of course, to have the instruments there to close the gap, but to consider a scheme where you can fund research activities and then further exploitation activities, but not merging them, not forcing a merge in one project of the two type of activities. So thank you very much for your attention. That's what I have to say in my time. Thank you very much.